Good evening and welcome to tonight's Hall of Excellence ceremony. My name is Mike Burnham and I am the Executive Director of the Interscholastic Division of the Maine Principals Association. Tonight, we take an opportunity to honor 11 exceptional individuals. The honor of being inducted into the Maine Principals Association Hall of Excellence is one of the highest honors that our association can bestow. This honor speaks to the impact and the contributions that each one of our inductees have made throughout their careers here in Maine. Each one of you represent the ideals that we strive for through education-based activities, and it is truly a pleasure to be able to recognize you tonight. The 2020 class was supposed to have been inducted last May, but we all know with the COVID virus and what happened that was delayed. But we are truly honored to be able to recognize you tonight, albeit virtually. Before we begin the ceremony, I just want to take an opportunity to thank Lifetouch Photography and their regional manager, Chad Snyder, for their continued support of this Hall of Excellence. Almost 8 years ago, Jerry Durgan and I had an opportunity to bring the concept of creating a Hall of Excellence to recognize those individuals that had made significant contributions to our young people to Lifetouch. They never hesitated with their support, and for that we are grateful. I would also be remiss if I didn't thank the entire MPA staff and Holly and Mike, especially for putting this together tonight so that we could do this ceremony virtually. And before we get going, on behalf of the entire MPA staff, I want to thank each one of you that are being recognized tonight for inspiring each one of us. We thank you for your service to our young people. You have truly made a difference. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce the co-host for tonight's program, Assistant Executive Director for the Interscholastic Division, Mike Bisson. Mike.
Good evening, and thank you, Mike. As Assistant Executive Director of the Maine Principals Association, I've had the distinct pleasure of working with the greatest principals, assistant principals, athletic directors, coaches, while also watching the finest student athletes from around the state. I am truly humbled to be here tonight to induct the 2020 class of leaders that have meant so much to Maine school-based athletics over their storied careers. It is an honor to share in this evening with this exceptional group of Hall of Fame inductees. Without further ado, let's begin tonight's festivities by presenting our first legend. The first honoree to be inducted into the 2020 Maine Principals Association Hall of Excellence is Don Atkinson. Don graduated from Skowhegan High School in 1965 and then from Gorham State College in 1969. He has served as varsity girls basketball coach for both Falmouth and Deering High Schools and as a varsity girls tennis coach for Portland and Deering High Schools. Don has served the MPA as a public address announcer for numerous state championship events, including soccer, field hockey, football, volleyball, basketball, baseball, tennis, and lacrosse. He is the tournament director for the MPA singles and team tennis tournaments, and I can honestly say that Don and his partner Cooper Higgins have elevated the MPA high school tennis championships into a premier event every spring. Don has been a member in good standing for the IAABO Board number 21 of basketball officials since 1970, where he is still the chairperson of the MPA Basketball Tournament Individual Awards Committee. He is also a member in good standing with the Western Maine Board of Soccer Officials. He also served as president of the Maine Tennis Association from 1973 to 1985. Don's accolades include the Phil Perino Award for Excellence in Officiating and Contributions to the Sport of Interscholastic Soccer in 2001, the Ollie Berg Award for Excellence in Officiating and Contributions to the Sport of Interscholastic Basketball in 2013, and he received the MPA Larry Labrie Award in 2017 for his years of service to the MPA. Don was elected to the Maine Tennis Association Hall of Fame in 1980 and inducted in the University of Southern Maine Sports Hall of Fame in 2002. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you to my friend Don Atkinson. At this time, I would invite Don to turn on his microphone and share some thoughts about his great career.
Thank you very much, Mike. I am deeply appreciative of receiving this award. It certainly means a great deal for me. The two separate involvements have encompassed most of my adult life, the tennis going 47 years. I am in fact so old that the MPA joined me rather than I joined them for tennis. I had been directing the singles championship for 2 years before the MPA became involved. And it has been a wonderful involvement. I've had the pleasure of working with the late Alex Somerville, with Jeff Sturgis, with Jerry Durgan, and now with Mike Bisson, and they have all been tremendous. Sorry about that. In basketball, I've worked with Mike Burnham and with Jerry Durgan, and being an announcer at the state tournament has been an honor. It's been a privilege, and it's something that I truly enjoy. I'd like to thank all of these people for their confidence in me and for their support. It is very important that I recognize my tennis cohort, Cooper Higgins, although don't tell him that. Cooper's friendship has meant so much to me over these years, and his attention to detail and his ability to deal with people has been truly inspiring. I am honored to be thought of in the terms of these other men and women by the Maine Principals Association. And once again, I thank you very, very much for considering me for this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. It's with great honor that I get to introduce our next two inductees, Bob and Gertrude Butler. Robert Bob Butler graduated from Machias High School in 1941 and from Coburn Classical Institute in 1942. He served our country in the 104th Infantry Division and was in the medical detachment of the 1272nd Combat Engineer Battalion. We thank him for that service. Bob then went on to attend the University of Maine and the University of Pennsylvania Dental School in 1946. He earned his BS from Springfield College in 1948, and then a master's from both the University of Maine and the University of New Hampshire. He was a chemistry, biology, and driver ed teacher. He was a basketball coach and the first director of athletics at York High School. He also served as the assistant principal at the school. Starting in 1950, Bob started collecting and tabulating tournament and seasonal records for Maine interscholastic basketball. We continue to keep those tournament records today, but we've found that it takes 4 people to compile the records that Bob took care of by himself. Bob's accolades included being recognized for outstanding and dedicated service to the Maine Interscholastic Athletics by the Maine Sports Hall of Fame and the Maine Interscholastic Athletic Association, the Ollie Berg Award, inducted into the first class of York High School's Hall of Fame, the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame, the New England Basketball Hall of Fame, and the Larry Labrie Award. In his honor, the Western Maine Conference awards the Robert E. Butler Award to an outstanding girl and boy each year, and the York High School gym was named the Robert E. Butler Gymnasium. Gertrude graduated from Bar Harbor High School in 1941. She then attended Husson College. She was a cheerleader coach, and she was a substitute business teacher and taught in adult education. She served as the secretary to the junior high principal and was the secretary to 3 different superintendents. Together, Bob and Gertrude compiled the heel point standings by hand for boys and girls basketball tournaments for 41 years. I can recall Sunday mornings in a snowstorm where they would drive first to Portland, then to Augusta, and then on to Bangor to hand deliver those final heel point standings. They have both received the Maine Association of Basketball Contributor Awards. Unfortunately, Mrs. Butler passed on February 20th, 2008 at the Holiday Inn in Augusta while attending the Eastern A and Western C and D Maine basketball tournaments. Although her children tried to keep her home that week, she insisted on going. I'm supposed to be there. They'll be looking for me. At that time, I was serving as the director of that basketball tournament, and we loved to see Mr. and Mrs. Butler every year at the tournament. We were looking for them. Bob, who lived to share stories and interact with people, passed on November 7th, 2020, following declining health from isolation due to this COVID virus. I did have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Butler about his selection into this Hall of Excellence with Mrs. Butler. In typical Mr. Butler form, he asked, "What the hell is this all about?" When asked how one determines what he or she is successful, Bob replied, "Success was finding work that you liked, something that had hope for the future, and someone to love." He found that he had discovered the first 2 in York, and then he brought the 3rd one with him. Here with us tonight to recognize his parents and to receive this honor on their behalf, his son, Dave Butler. Dave, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mike. Tonight, I have the distinct honor of representing the family of Robert and Gertrude Butler. It was a battle amongst me and my siblings, Robert Jr. and Wanda Butler Avery, who would speak tonight. Being the only one in the family not to spend their career in education, it was determined that I was probably the only one who could keep it anywhere close to 5 minutes. I would like to start by expressing our sincerest gratitude to the MP Hall of Excellence Committee, as well as Life Touch Photography for making this evening possible. We would also like to extend our congratulations to all of the other award winners being recognized here tonight. In preparing for tonight's event, I took some time to review the folks who have experienced this honor in years past. Although not directly involved in education myself, I recognize many of the past honorees, folks such as Bob Stevens, Jerry Durgan, and Marty Ryan, who we were very sad to hear passed away just last week, all whom my father worked with while serving as either York High School assistant principal or athletic director. Also, there were Peter Fletcher, whose names would surface regularly football season and especially come tournament time. Larry Labrie, whose award my father had the privilege of receiving back in 2009. And Cindy Blodgett and Matt Rosenall, whose names, of course, were always at or near the top of the list when my dad and I often talked about the greatest high school basketball players to come out of the state of Maine. Looking at tonight's honorees, I see Bob Wytock's name on the list. I know our mom and dad and the entire Butler family always held Bob Wytock in the highest regard. To have our parents recognized, along with all of these wonderful individuals, as well as many others, is most definitely a prestigious honor for which we'll be forever proud. Our father has received many honors over the years, including being inducted into the inaugural classes of both the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame and the York High School Hall of Fame. In addition, he and our mother jointly received the Maine Association of Basketball Coaches Contributor Award. However, tonight's honor is very different for a couple of reasons. First, there is the criteria for receiving the award, that being individuals exemplifying the highest standard of educational leadership, citizenship, ethical conduct, and moral character. Who couldn't be proud of having parents being recognized for demonstrating those qualities? Second, this is the first award they have received since both of our parents have passed on. Our mother passing away in a motel while attending the tournament in Augusta back in 2008, and then losing our father just 3.5 short months ago following declining health from isolation due to COVID. I've said several times since that our father did not die of COVID, but because of it. For many people, high school basketball is just a blip on the radar of their lives, whether it be attending games as a student, watching friends or family members play, actually having the good fortune of being able to play the game, or even the better fortune of being able to experience playing in a tournament game, whether that be in Bangor, Augusta, Portland, or in my case, Auburn at Edward Little High School. You see, we three children of Bob and Gertrude Butler all played high school basketball. However, don't bother going back through the record books to see how we ranked among the greats. My personal tournament playing experience ended at the conclusion of pregame warmups in a quarterfinal game between York and Georges Valley. That was in 1974 during my junior year, where from the bench, I witnessed the Buccaneers, including future USM basketball star and Gorham coaching great Kevin Jenkins, dismantle my Wildcats. I was anticipating a return trip to the tournament my senior year, but we ended that season with a record of 1-17. It wasn't in the cards. My brother Rob did play for York in a rather uneventful quarterfinal loss to Mexico back in 1967. Sorry, Rob. And my sister Wanda, as a 1970 YHS grad, also played. However, that was in the years prior to having a girls' tournament. My wife, Crystal, does have one claim to fame, however, as she participated in the first ever Maine high school girls basketball tournament game played in 1975, when York defeated Gray New Gloucester at Lewiston High School. She blazed the trail. Well, enough about us. As I was saying, high school basketball is just a blip on the radar in the lives of many. However, in the Butler household, it was much more than that. I guess you wouldn't have expected anything else when you have a father that, except for when Western Class B games moved to Portland, hadn't missed a Western Maine non-Class A game from 1950 until our mother passed in 2008. Our mother was at many of those games, as her father would often say that she probably attended more games than any other woman in New England. In addition, both of our parents also attended all of the high school and rec league games of all of their 9 grandchildren, often spending all day Saturday in the gym. When our mother was asked one time what her life had been like, she responded with, "Life has been a ball." When we were growing up, first my brother and then I were able to provide our mother much needed breaks by joining our father for many trips to the tournament each February. First, it was at the Lewiston Armory, then Edward Little High School, and eventually the Augusta Civic Center. We were often the first ones into the building when it opened, and usually some of the last ones to leave. We got to know the tournament officials, game officials, media, team coaches and players, ticket takers, concession vendors, as well as the custodians. Many of them were day trips, but some required nights at hotels. I can remember Dad with his notebooks, calculator, and typewriter, often having to work well into the night in order to have the Class A tournament standings compiled, printed out, and copied in time to meet with MPA officials first thing in the next morning. Our parents worked together to compile the Heel Point standings for all high school basketball teams in the state of Maine for 41 years, and our father completed tournament records since 1950 until moving into an assisted living facility a few years ago. To say that high school basketball was a passion of both our father and mother would be a huge understatement. They loved watching high school basketball games both during the regular season and at the tournament. But above all, they loved the relationships that were created and subsequently flourished over the years and the stories that stayed with them up to their final days. Stories that they were able to share with family and many, so many friends. Again, thanks to all for honoring our mother and father with this distinguished recognition. They would both be very appreciative, honored, and humbled. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Our next honoree is Ralph Dameron. Ralph graduated from Central Institute in 1964 and went on to attend Farmington State College from 1965 to 1966. He began his service to interscholastic activities as a baseball umpire in 1966, a service he still engages in today. He was a chapter interpreter from 1978 to 2019, and he has officiated 17 state championships. Ralph is also very involved in football. He started as a football official in 1969 and continues to do so now. He was also a chapter and state interpreter. He was the main representative on the NFHS National Rules Committee, and he has officiated 15 state championships. Ralph was inducted to MCI's Hall of Fame in 2007, MCI Athletic Hall of Fame in 2013, received the Larry Labrie Award in 2012, received the Football Official Recognition Award from the NFL Foundation in 2010, and was inducted into the Maine Baseball Hall of Fame in 2016. Ralph assigned umpires for more than 10 years for the Weber Royal All-Star Game, umpired at the Pittsfield Little League Tournament for more than 15 years, and has officiated 2 Lobster Bowl football games. When I started to become a football official on the Bangor board of MAFO, I was introduced to Ralph's weekly legendary Chalk Talk sessions on the overhead projector. Ralph would explain the nuances and mechanics of a particular rule that always involved Big Bubba running over little Susie the cheerleader. I don't know how little Susie always ended up in the way, but she certainly did. But in all seriousness, Ralph has been a tremendous leader for baseball and football officials over his storied career. Please help me welcome a mentor and friend, Ralph Dameron.
Mr. Dameron, you will need to turn on your camera and hit the microphone button so that we can hear and see you, please.
Okay, technical advisor here, technical support.
Great job. Oh, you're muted again. We had you and now you're muted.
Can you hear him?
Yeah, I can hear you now. If you want to just kind of tilt it down. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Just like that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike, for the very flattering introduction, and my heartfelt thanks to the Maine Principal Association for the award. I do have 2 people that I certainly need to offer special thanks to. First is Al Card, a former recipient of this award, as he was my high school baseball coach back at MCI. He couldn't see a future for me out on the field other than as an umpire, and got me involved in umpiring way back then. Secondly is my wife, Roberta, for putting up with being a umpires and referees widow for 35 plus years, as I would say, "Dia, time to go to another ball game." Thank you, Coach Card. I'm sure you're looking down on us. And thank you, honey. She's only 6 feet away. As far as athletics go, I believe that once you've left high school, you have 3 avenues that you can pursue to stay active in athletics. The first and the obvious one is to continue to play. But that may not be that easy. I worked a couple of Lobster Bowl games where the best of the best high school players are out there. And I've asked some of the coaches, of these 100 kids that are on the field today, how many of them will be playing collegiate ball in the fall? And the answer is less than 10. Now that's a very low percentage from the cream of the crop. And I'm sure we've all seen the NCAA public service ad tutoring their education as being their importance, and the low percentage of collegiate athletes that make it onto the professional ranks. The other 2 avenues are a little easier to get into. First is coaching. Now, coaching, my understanding, is very time consuming. And just take, for instance, football. After the preseason is done, for every 1 game you play, you have 4 or 5 practices prior to that. And after the practices are over, you're home working on your game plan for the upcoming game. And also dealing with PMS. which of course means parental meddling syndrome. Parents today, I think, are a little more vocal than they were back in the days of yore. The third avenue to pursue is officiating. And yes, you have to have a thick skin because the fans will boo you a lot more than they'll cheer you. But I had a veteran coach one time tell me that for every one mistake that I made out on the field, he would make 10. He said, the difference being is we remind you of your mistakes. Now, the advantage from the officiating perspective is you are anonymous. Rarely does your name show up in a program, and certainly your phone remains unlisted. There are a lot of advantages to being involved in officiating. The first one to me is you feel young again. You stay active. Over the last several years, I've had a knee replacement and a hip replacement. And I was very fortunate to have my rehab teacher, who was a former trainer for the Cleveland Indians, ask me this question on our first meeting. She said, I can work with you to shuffle from the couch to the refrigerator and back to the couch again, or I can work with you to run down the field chasing some kid that just intercepted a pass for 99 yards. It was a thoughtless answer on my part. I said, well, I certainly want to go for number 2. Secondly, is, in my opinion, it adds a little mental therapy to you, because when you're out in the field, you're concentrating on one thing. You're focusing on every play. You're focusing on every pitch. And the worries and the perils of the world are all off your mind for those few fleeting hours that the game takes. And thirdly is friendship. Your associates, your fellow officials, all have the same common interest. And it really molds some great friendships. A classic example was in a fellow official in Bangor named Jeff Thurlow, who was active, who was in the Army Reserve. His unit was activated and he was deployed to Iraq. We stayed in contact with his wife, and she promised to let us know when he was arriving back in Maine. We got the word one snowy February night that he was arriving at midnight. Well, we had formed a telephone tree. Calls were made, cars were shoveled out, and when his plane arrived at midnight, we had a chapter of 35 officials back then. 23 of us were at the airport, along with many of our wives. To me, that's camaraderie. And finally, you got a hobby. We all have hobbies of some sorts. This is a hobby that involves a sport that you love, or sports that you love if you work multiple sports. And you get paid for it. Now, thank all of you for your attention here, and again for being involved in this. And someday we'll have beaten our toughest opponent, worldwide pandemic, that will put us back to more normalcy. And at that point, thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. Very well said. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next honoree, Jack Hardy. Jack graduated from Livermore Falls High School in 1973, then went on to attend both the University of Maine at Presque Isle and the University of Maine, Orono. He was a teacher and coach for 13 years before becoming the athletic director for Greeley High School, where he served in that position for 14 years. Jack then moved into the assistant principal's position at Falmouth High School before becoming administrator at North Yarmouth Academy. Jack was an outstanding outdoor track and field coach, winning 7 state girls championships and 1 state boys championship. He also served as the indoor track and field coach for 4 years and saw his team win a state championship in indoor as well. He coached the Nordic ski team for 2 years and was twice recognized as the Maine High School Coaches Association Track Coach of the Year, both in 1987 and 1989. And in 1991 was recognized as the NFICA Outstanding Coach. Jack was recognized as the 2000 MIAAA Robert Leahy Athletic Administrator of the Year, the 2001 Mayford Athletic Administrator of the Year, received an NFHS National Distinguished Service Award in 2004, and was twice nominated as the MPA Assistant Principal of the Year. Jack had the 2014 North Yarmouth Academy yearbook dedicated to him for his service at that school. According to former student Andrew Hansen, Mr. Hardy was a pillar of integrity in our athletic program. This, combined with his ever-present warmth and charisma, fostered a contagious winning environment where the student athletes embraced playing the right way. He was always there for us with a genuine open door policy and a steady presence at our competitions. He is a true role model. I totally agree with Andrew. Jack has always been the consummate professional, and it is with great pleasure that I welcome Jack Hardy into the 2020 Hall of Excellence. Jack?
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate those words, and it's great to hear from Andrew Hansen. He was one of the best kids to come through the school, and what a joy it was to watch him participate in athletics. Just a well-rounded kid altogether. I'd like to just say that part of what I'm going to do tonight is in memory of Marty Ryan, for those of you who knew him, a great man. So my thanks to the directors and staff of the Maine Principals Association for giving you time and energy in organizing this event, and all you do in supporting the students of our state. It's unfortunate the events make it so that we're not able to be in the same room to personally visit. I really enjoy my time with all of you. If we had assembled tonight, I would have had the privilege to introduce members of my family, yet I'm glad they're able to join us in this virtual ceremony. My sweet and loving wife, Kathy, who's always understanding and supportive of my work and of the necessary time away from home. My daughter, Brooke, my mom, Lolita Marguerite, my older sister, Deborah, only older by 11 months, I must say, and that was a bit of a challenge, right, Mom? I'm not sure if that challenge was bigger when we were infants or when we were teenagers. And my little sister, I've always called her my little sister, Rhonda. Throughout my career, I was fortunate to have many quality teachers, athletic directors, and coaches around me. Some are viewing tonight, and to each I say, during our time working together, you grew to be a trusted friend and a great part of the reason I'm here right now. A mentor is a wise and trusted guide and advisor. I feel the best mentors are not necessarily those assigned to you, but those who seek you out and through their actions provide an example to follow. Mrs. Allen Hutton was the principal who played a vital role in my being hired as an assistant principal to work with her, and we just clicked as an administrative team. I thank her so much for her belief in me and her constant support. The year that I moved from being a teacher coach to being a director of athletics, I was fortunate to have 3 incredible mentors. I follow them into this MPA Hall of Excellence. These gentlemen taught me important things regarding work in our schools, between schools, and with student athletes. This included doing what was best for the kids, and not just for the students in my own school community, but the students in all of our schools. Our league meetings were held once or twice every month, and they welcomed me to their table. Although it's been decades, I still have snapshots in my mind of us sitting around the table. Cape Elizabeth, Keith Weatherby on my left, Yarmouth's Ken Rogers, Ken Roberts across the table, and Gorham's Jerry Durgan on my right. Jerry, understanding the importance of humor in life and so good at delivering quick-witted comments that would bring all four of us to laughter. None more than Keith, and what a great laugh Keith Weatherby has. I was fortunate to enjoy conversation and laugh with Jerry this morning. Jerry, I think you're out there. At times you believed more in me. You provided me with leadership opportunities and experiences that would have never been if not for you. My sincere thank you. I've worked beside some incredible men and women teachers and coaches, people who truly care for their students, some who became lifelong friends. I think of people, Rob Hale, Todd Livingston, Derek Soule, and I worked together for many years. Todd and I collaborated also as athletic administrators. To me, these three represent and embody the character and commitment we hope to share with the students that we're entrusted with. I hope that all of you have taken the time to reflect on the men and women who are important in your experiences. Who helped you? And have you taken the opportunity to thank them yet? I very much miss the school atmosphere and being part of the development of students, and I continue reflecting on my years spent in education. At the conclusion of a recent interview, as he was speaking about his life and work, Norman Lear, the American writer and producer known for the sitcoms All in the Family, Sanford and Son, and One Day at a Time, made a brief comment that feels so appropriate to me at this time. He simply said, "I don't mind the going. It's the leaving that is the problem for me." I thank you for your time and attention and truly appreciate this award. Good evening.
Thank you, Jack. Well said. The next inductee in the MPA Hall of Excellence is Barbara Krause. Barbara graduated from Freeport High School in 1977. She then attended Bowdoin College before transferring to Duke, where she graduated summa cum laude in 1981 with a double major in philosophy and German. Barbara then earned her Doctor of Jurisprudence degree in 1986 from Cornell Law School. While at Cornell, she was the editor-in-chief of the prestigious Cornell International Law Journal. In high school, Barbara was the co-captain of the girls basketball team that went on to win the Class C state championship in 1976. She earned 11 of 12 possible varsity letters in her time at Freeport High School and captained the basketball, field hockey, and softball teams. She was also one of two recipients. She was also one of two recipients of the 1976 Maine Sports Hall of Fame Scholar Athlete Award in the inaugural year of the award. While at Duke University, Barbara broke the record for the most rebounds per game, holding first and second all-time with 24 and 23 rebounds, and both records are yet to be broken. As of the 2020-21 season, Barbara remains on several top 10 lists, including season rebounding average, with seasons still ranking number 3, 5, and 9, career rebounding average 2nd, career field goal percentage 9th, and career double-doubles 4th. She was also chosen to be on the NCAAW Division I All-Star Team in 1981 and NCAAW Scholar Athlete Award in 1980. Barbara also played semi-professional basketball from 1981 to 1983 for the basketball Gemeinschaft Dortzen in Germany. The team competed in the German Bundesliga, that country's highest level of competition. Barbara was inducted into the Maine Sports Hall of Fame in 1999. In 2009, she was recognized as an Atlantic Coast Conference women's basketball legend and then was inducted into the New England Basketball Hall of Fame. Finally, she was inducted into the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame in 2018. In addition to her tremendous contribution to interscholastic sports, Barbara has been an attorney at Drummond Woodson and provided legal advice and representation to numerous Maine school departments and districts. It is with great honor that I welcome Barbara Krause into the Maine MPA Hall of Excellence.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that introduction and the generous comments. For me, there's nothing better than being recognized by my home state. And the plate that you provided, which I don't know if you can see, it's right over here on my shelf in a place of prominence, it's beautiful and I appreciate it. I'm humbled to be here this evening and I congratulate the other honorees. Credit for any recognition I've ever received always has to start with my mom, Mary Jane Krause. She was a single mother before that was even a concept, and she was my biggest fan. So I always have to thank first my mom and the rest of my growing up family, my sisters Carol and Pam, our grandparents, and the best bunch of aunts, uncles, and cousins anyone could ever wish for. And of course, fantastic teammates at every level, especially those who were part of our state championship at Freeport High School, which we won 45 years ago tomorrow in a close game against Katahdin. That remains to this day one of the most special accomplishments of my career, and I'm still close with teammates and friends, and we watch the current version of the girls basketball team when they have tournament games. We live stream and text with each other, and those connections and the people are just so special. But given the source of this recognition today, I really want to thank the teachers and coaches who guided me, especially during my high school years. The Maine Principals Association exists, among other reasons, to promote leadership and professionalism among school administrators and to oversee high school interscholastic sports and activities. You provide opportunities for teachers and coaches, and in doing so, you enhance opportunities for young people across the state of Maine. Whatever I've managed to accomplish, the teachers and coaches in the Freeport school system played a huge role in laying the foundation for it. Those people included actually Mike Bisson's mom, Jan Lancaster, who taught at Freeport High School, John Brogan, who taught at Freeport High while I was there and coached both girls and boys sports, and Martha Brogan, John's wife, who taught in Pownell and was our biggest fan when Jack was coaching field hockey at Freeport High School. Let me just share one quick story about John Brogan. Some of you may know him as the boys basketball coach and at Freeport and later as the track coach at Morse. But he also coached girls field hockey and softball at Freeport because otherwise we wouldn't have had a coach for a couple of seasons. He really didn't know anything about field hockey when he started. But he just didn't want a group of pretty good girl athletes to miss a sports season. So he gave his time and he learned the game of field hockey, and Martha brought sports bars for us before every game. Back then we called them molasses cookies. And we went out and had a lot of success in what people will remember as the old Triple C. And that was just one teacher making a difference because he cared about kids. What else did teachers and coaches at Freeport do for me? Well, among other things, they taught me how to shoot a free throw and to make a low post move. And they taught me how to write and think and be a good student. They checked in on me and other kids during study halls. They took a leap of faith and hired me to babysit their own kids. What they mostly did, day in and day out, was to model for me and my teammates, for our classmates, how to be good, thinking, caring people in the world. They inspired me in 1,000 ways, big and small, to be my best self. And I know many of you who are in this class of honorees have done the same for countless kids throughout your careers. Don't get me wrong, I was incredibly fortunate to have a loving, inspiring family at home. But the old African-based proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child, I experienced the truth of that. all of you who have to do with teaching and coaching, never doubt for a single second the difference you make in the lives of students. When you take an in, when you pay attention to and give them your time in all the positive ways that you do, trust that you are changing their lives for the better. In closing, I just want to offer a huge shout out to all the teachers and coaches out there and to everyone at the Maine Principals Association for persisting in your good work during this challenging time of COVID. I salute you, I thank you, and I share this honor with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. It's my pleasure to welcome our next honoree, Mr. Fern Massey. Fern graduated from Lewiston High School in 1953. After graduation, he went on to attend the Corn State Teachers College, where he graduated in 1957. And worked for the Lewiston School Department as a teacher, coach, and athletic administrator. He coached for 2 decades, amassing over 250 wins, including 2 of his teams earning Western Maine Class A championships. As an athletic administrator, Fern oversaw an athletic program at Lewiston that produced 10 state championship teams. He was a member of the Southwestern Maine Activities Association, serving as the president 2 different times. He was also actively involved with the MIAAA and served on the MPA basketball committee for 6 years. Fern was a trustee and chaired the Franklin Pasture Committee that was credited with putting the first new athletic fields at Lewiston High School. He also served on the scholarship committees for both the non-parent Norm Parent and Thomas J. Leahy Foundations. Fern continued to serve the students in the Lewiston-Auburn area by co-founding the Hoop Basketball Camp in 1971, where he's held every position available: coach, basketball director, camp director, and trustee. He is also a member and past president for the board of directors for the Lewiston-Auburn YMCA. Fern has earned several accolades over his professional career. He was inducted into the USM Husky Sports Hall of Fame, the Lewiston-Auburn Sports Hall of Fame, the New England Basketball Hall of Fame, the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame, and the Lewiston-Auburn YMCA Hall of Fame. He has been awarded the Western Maine Basketball Board 21 Ollie Berg Memorial Award and the Maine Association of Basketball Coaches Contributors Award. The Southern Maine Activities Association Dedication and Service to the SMAA and the MIAAA Maine Sports Hall of Fame Retired Athletic Administrator Award and an MIAAA Larry Labrie Distinguished Service Award. The Lewiston High School gymnasium floor has been dedicated in his honor and is known as the Coach Massey Court. Fern has dedicated his life to the service of others. It is truly an honor to welcome Fern Massey into the 2020 MPA Hall of Excellence. Fern?
Oops.
You should be all set, Mr. Massey.
Okay, thanks, Michael. I'd like to, first of all, congratulate the class of 2020, all those people are being honored tonight. It's quite a thrill for me, and I'm sure it is for them also. And I'd like to thank Mike Burnham, the MPA staff, for their work that they've been doing, for setting this up for everyone. And also to special thanks to Tracy Martin, athletic administrator at Narragansett High School, who had something to do, I believe, for me being on this evening. And then the other one was Matt Lash at Madomic Valley High School, and also had some say in why I'm being on it this evening. I appreciate them. Tracy worked for us for about 30 plus years at Hoop Camp, and is a great worker, and she could do a little bit of everything. Matt was a youngster at Hoop Camp when we first started in '71, but has dad, Neil Ash, was the first person we hired at camp to get us going. And thank God we did, because Nat was an outstanding employee for us for a number of years. He could do everything, and we really appreciate what he did for us. And that's why that we went on as having a very successful camp for 50 years. A few things that were left out, I guess, that were not mentioned. And some of the things were, I did 1 year teaching in Rockland out of college, my first year, before I moved to Lewiston. And I was at Lewiston for 40 years. And they mentioned I was a teacher coach for 30 of those years. In my last 10 years, I was a athletic administrator that I enjoyed immensely, and able to work at the basketball tournament and in the A tournament, Class A, at the Civic Center. So that was a real thrill for me, and enjoyed that part of it. A couple of people that really high on that really helped me out in high school. A couple of coaches that I had. Non-parent was my baseball coach at Lewiston High School, and Nat Crowley was my basketball coach in high school. Both those gentlemen had a lot to do and had a lot of influence on me to go to the next step, or the next level, which I obviously did. And I thank that from my former principal at Lewiston High School, Linwood Kelly, who called me in his office one day and said, what are you thinking of doing next year? And I wasn't sure at that point. I was thinking of probably going to prep school. And he said, well, how about Gorham? And I said, well, that might work out. So anyway, make a long story short, thanks to Mr. Kelly, I ended up at Gorham there for 4 years and played ball there for 4 years. And fortunately, I had a coach there that was a good friend, and a role model for me was Dr. Richard Costello, who I had thought an awful lot of, and played baseball and basketball for him there for 4 years, and was able to captain the baseball and basketball teams for him. Then a couple of other things that come on, as in the 90s, I think that Mike mentioned this, where we had a new facility at the high school at Lewiston after a number of years. In the mid-90s, we built a new facility for all sports, football, soccer, field hockey, tennis, and that was built in the mid-90s. Since then, Lewiston has come a long ways, where this past year, they now have a new facility behind the high school with 2 turf fields, lights, and it covers just about everything you need. All the sports can be played right there at the high school, and they start early in the season with a turf on those 2 fields. So they're one step ahead now. That the school were one of the best facilities in the state of Maine at this point. And then in 1971, I had a little spare time, and we started hoop camp. And that was when my brother-in-law, Malcolm Filbert Jr., and I decided that we were co-founders of the camp. And it made it very nice, because my father-in-law loved basketball, and he was tickled to death, and he was part of the work that we did when we got started at hoop camp. So we got started. But again, you're looking at 71, that's 50 years ago, and we're still going strong. And we're very pleased what we've done with the program. And I think we've got a pretty good reputation in the state and New England for basketball programs. We've at hoop camp, we've had a number of coaches at camp over the years. In 50 years, we have a number of coaches, probably somewhere around 2,500 to 3,000. And we've had, as far as campers go, grades 4 through 12, from 71 to now, 2021, we've had well over 32,000 campers in those years. And so I met a lot of people, nice people that I enjoyed, former campers, and I'm able to meet with these parents when they come in to talk with former campers that we've had over the years, and say they come in and say, you remember me, and that type of thing. And it's really warm to think that that's going on for us. So again, 32,000 campers plus maybe 2,500 counselors and coaches. So I met a lot of coaches and a lot of good people that worked with us at camp. And so I'm very pleased about that. We've had a good staff over the years. And right now, one of the other honorees here tonight is Ij Pinkham, who was one of our first coaches in the 70s at Hoop Camp. And Ij has done very well for himself at Booth Bay. And he's brought Booth Bay basketball right up to the top of his class. And finishing up, what I'd like to thank again, go back to Mike Burnham, to thank him, the way they run the tournament over the years. It's a real thing that I look forward to, even now at all classes. Again, it's something that we look forward to. We're going to miss it this year. Hopefully next year, after this virus is over with us, we can get our tournaments back in Bangor and Augusta and in Portland. So again, I like to thank him and continue the good work. And in closing, a few thank yous here that I want to go through. One of them, I want to thank the Philbrook family and my family for what for their support with me at camp and also during the basketball seasons. And to my own youngsters, I really appreciate their support. And to my number one fan, my wife, Susan, I thank her very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Fern. Great job. The next honoree to be inducted into the 2020 Hall of Excellence is Jim DeFrederico. Jim graduated from Stearns High School in 1946, where he was a three-sport standout. He was selected to play in several all-conference and state teams. After graduation, he attended Rickard College, as well as Florida State, Holy Cross, and the University of Georgia. Jim also served in the United States Army during the Korean conflict. We thank him for his service to our country. Jim played for the Augusta Millionaires and was drafted by the Boston Red Sox in 1949, where he played in that organization until 1954. He then played in the Chicago Cubs organization, where an unfortunate arm injury ended his career. Jim was a Division I basketball official and baseball umpire over 30 years, where he was a longtime member of board number 111 basketball officials and in New England college basketball and baseball officials. Jim was recognized by the Maine Basketball Coaches and Writers Association. He received the Ray Bicknell Man of the Year Award in 1985. He was inducted in the Maine Baseball Hall of Fame in 1988, and then inducted into the first class of the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame in 2014. On a personal level, I spent 4 years teaching and coaching in Millinocket at Stearns High School early in my career. It didn't take long for me to understand the legacy of the man that the baseball field at Stearns High School was named after. He was a person that lives on in that community as one of the sports legends that is still reminisced about regularly when discussing the great history of Stearns High School in Millinocket, Maine. Joining us to celebrate Jim DeFrederico this evening is his son, Jim DeFrederico Jr.
Thank you very much, Mike. I must say that my father would be deeply humbled, honored, and grateful to be with such an exciting group and in the midst of people inducted into the Hall of Excellence. It is an honor and a privilege to be accepting this award on behalf of my father through my family. I would like to take this moment to thank the MPA Director Mike Burnham, Assistant Director Mike Bisson, for recognizing my father with this honorable award. First and foremost, for the incredible work that you all at the MPA do for so many young people. Being a teacher and former coach, I am grateful that this organization touches so many lives of children, families, and people. I would like to recognize the presence of past recipients, tonight's honorees, not only for making such special occasion, but for everything that you've given yourselves over the years and what you all stand for. You are all very, very special people. Congratulations and thank you. I would like to just take a moment. I know Mike, did touch upon, some of the things that Dad had taken and done throughout his career. But I would like to also just familiarize you a little bit with, some of the other things that he was kind of known for, and probably as much so for the community work that he'd done and how he treated young people. I would like to add that Dad had taken and officiated over 2,000 high school and collegiate games in his career. Officiated in 21 consecutive Maine high school basketball tournaments. Spent a great deal of time in Millinocket developing the Little League baseball program and a Little Giant football program, right from the start. Also has an award by the IABO Board 111 that they recognize people over the last, 25, 26 years in his honor with the qualities that he had stood for. Dad passed away on February 3rd in 1985. Also, just a couple of inspirational types of qualities. And I always remember him, saying this to so many people. He would always say, imagine the impact that you can have. And I guess, the other thing was he preached never, 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 ever give up on anybody. Whether they were a little kid, they made mistakes over and over and over. He always believed that one day, they would make their mark. And, he was certainly an example of that himself. He did make a difference in people's lives in so many ways in his short life here on this earth. It was kind of neat. He always, had a pat on the back for people, whether it was a fellow official, coach, players, just wishing them well. And, he truly, believed that it was more than just a game, to him. He was kind of the Pied Piper in Millinocket. He delivered mail for 35 years and walked, and he would have a number of kids, a dozen or so kids waiting for him on his route, and they would follow him around, which was kind of neat, like the Pied Piper. And then he'd make the loop around, and then he'd drop them off, at the respective homes. But they just, I think, enjoyed because he paid attention to them. And that's just how his soft-spoken demeanor certainly was. And without question, he was a true listener. He was devoted to his causes, no matter, what they were, and had a great way with players. I was talking to, a player last night that played for Skank, and he had mentioned that they always liked to see Dad walk into the gym because they knew they would get a fair contest, that he wasn't going to be a homer as an official. And he was one of those officials that kind of helped the players out. He always wasn't blowing his whistle. The second that somebody committed a foul or a violation, he would just kind of let it go and may warn them, in the bucket and so on. And, and that's kind of how he, just took it to an official, which was kind of neat. But one memory that I'll never forget was in 1985. It was the East Maine Class B championship, which he refereed a lot of, championship games. It was between Dexter and Van Buren, and Mr. Peter Webb held a moment of silence in that game. There were over 6,000 people in the Bangor auditorium, and you could hear a pin drop for over a minute and a half. It was pretty neat. It was pretty powerful. That's one thing that will never, ever, leave me, and I constantly, remember. One of the last memories that I had of Dad was a mental image of a gentle man with his arm resting on the shoulder of a young athlete, just kind of directing him and teaching him. He really had a soft spot for the underdog, that player that wasn't very good and wasn't the star. And he spent many, many hours, trying to develop those types of players. And certainly they were very, very appreciative of that. I would like to thank you for the recognition of a man who enriched so many lives and touched so many lives in such a short time. We are truly grateful and appreciative for this award, and I thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Jim. Very well said. Our next inductee into the 2020 MPA Hall of Excellence is Irving Ij Pinkham. IJ graduated from Millbridge High School in 1965 and went on to attend the University of Maine at Farmington, graduating in 1969, and then to earn his master's degree in educational leadership from USM in 1978. IJ started his teaching and coaching career at Buckfield Junior Senior High School as a mathematics and history teacher from 1969 to 1976, where he also served as the boys' varsity basketball coach from 1970 to 76. After his time at Buckfield, he moved on to become a mathematics and history teacher at Boothbay Regional High School, a position that he held for over 40 years. IJ also served as the athletic administrator at Boothbay from 1980 to 1992 and was the boys basketball coach from 1976 to 2020. With 659 varsity boys basketball victories, IJ holds the record for the most wins by a Maine high school boys coach. For 27 straight years, his teams qualified for the regional tournament. His teams captured 11 conference championships, played in 10 regional championship games, winning 5 of those, as well as a state championship in 2001. He led his team to 5 Class C regional championships and 5 Class C regional runners-up. He has been inducted into the Midcoast Sports Hall of Fame. The Maine Basketball Hall of Fame was presented the Boothbay Region YMCA Patron of Youth Award and has been recognized by the Maine Association of Basketball Coaches for its 600 varsity basketball victories. He was named the Lewiston Sun Journal Class C Coach of the Year, the Maine Portland Sunday Telegram Coach of the Year, the Class C Regional Coach of the Year, and has been named to coach the Maine McDonald's Class C All-Star team on 9 separate occasions. He was recognized in the Who's Who of American basketball coaches in 1988. I had the honor of coaching against IJ, contributing to those 659 victories, as well as working with him as an athletic administrator. I can tell you that he was always a role model for others, and we all look to him for his leadership and his advice. Please welcome us in welcoming IJ into the 2020 Hall of Excellence. IJ?
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and congratulations to all of the honorees. I am honored and humbled to receive this recognition. You'll probably be able to tell from my voice, I had a bout with throat cancer 10 years ago, so I may struggle some with my voice. If I struggle a lot, Peggy will take over for me. Receiving this award would not have been possible without the many people who have inspired and supported me. My parents had me headed in the right direction early and were very supportive and involved in my educational and athletic activity. My principal at Millbridge High School, Jack Sumner, who was also the math and science teacher, had a huge influence on me. He was a terrific educator, and his example was the reason I eventually became a teacher. After graduating, I enrolled at then Farmington State Teachers College. The smaller college atmosphere and approachable faculty worked very well for me. UMF prepared me well to begin a teaching and coaching career. While at Farmington, I was fortunate to play on the basketball team for 4 years. My coach and eventual role model was Len McPhee. He was low-key, never raised his voice, and had great knowledge of the game. And my position on the bench beside him enabled me to learn a great deal of basketball. To be able to coach and teach for 50 years would not have been possible without the support of many administrators. Jack Gaudette gave me my first teaching position and coaching position at Buckfield High School. I'm sure his recommendation helped me obtain my position at Booth Bay Region. The administrators at Booth Bay have always been very supportive of my coaching and the program. It's difficult to run a good program if you don't have people behind you. My wife Peggy and 2 sons, Matt and Tim, have been my biggest supporters. The boys grew up lining fields, setting up gyms, and helping at practice. Our family winters revolved around basketball. When I first received this notice of this recognition, I asked myself, why me? You know, I felt I was a good teacher and coach, but there's a lot of good teachers and coaches. Then I thought about the feedback. Students, fans, players, parents, and my coaching peers have given me about my teaching and coaching. People seem to appreciate that I taught to the individual student, and I taught with a great deal of caring and humor. I wasn't a great mathematician, but I think I was a good math teacher. As a coach, I knew I was old school, but people seemed to like that I had standards and stood behind them. Fans, coaches, and others didn't praise my wins and losses. They liked my coaching methods and the demeanor of my players before, during, and after games. I wanted my players to have a respect for the game, and I think I coached the right ways. I will always carry fond memories of my students, players, the coaches I coached with and against. It was a great ride, and I loved every minute of it. Congratulations to all of the honorees, and again, my deep appreciation for this recognition. Thank you.
Well done, IJ. Never worry about why you're inducted into this Hall of Excellence. Our next inductee this evening is Ann Turbine Andrews. Ann graduated from Winslow High School in 1975, and then from the University of Maine at Orono with a Bachelor of Science in Education in 1981. While she was in high school, Ann competed in track and field all 4 years with only 1 loss during her tenure. She won the Kennebec Valley Conference Championship in state meets in 1973, 74, and 75 in the discus. She also won the Kennebec Valley Conference Championship in state meets in the 8-pound shot put all 4 years. She broke the national high school record at the Kennebec Valley Conference Championship in 1975 with a distance of 52 feet, 6.5 inches. That distance still ranks 7th all time in the NFHS record book. I checked it today. Ann received the Outstanding Field Event Award all 4 years of high school, and in 1975, she received the Mansfield Award, given each year to a graduating senior who was considered the most outstanding athlete at Winslow High School. She was the first female athlete to ever win the award, and the next year, Winslow High School changed the award to go to both a male and a female athlete. After high school, Ann won first place in the Junior National Track and Field Championship in 1975. The same year, she came in 6th place in the Senior National Track and Field Championship. In 1976, Ann came in first place in the Senior Indoor National Championship, National Track and Field Championship. She came in second place at the Senior National Championship in both 1978 and 79. Ann came in second place during the 1980 Olympic trials. As a true powerhouse, she also won national powerlifting championships each year from 1978 through 1980 and broke 4 world records. Ann Turbine Andrews is a pioneer in women's track and field and powerlifting in Maine and has set a very high bar for girls to strive for. She was inducted in the University of Maine Sports Hall of Fame in 1981, the Maine Sports Hall of Fame in 1981, and the Maine Running Hall of Fame in 1998. And it is with great pleasure that we recognize you in the 2020 class for the MPA Hall of Excellence.
Thank you, Mike. And congratulations to my fellow honorees, and thank you to the Maine Principals Association for the honor of being chosen for this award. The success I was able to achieve was due to instrumental moments, wonderful people, and a lot of luck. I was fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. My coach, Ernie Gilbert, was my physical education teacher. My freshman year, Ernie asked me to try throwing the shot puts. I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a try. 3 weeks later, he had me compete in the indoor state meet, and I ended up breaking that record in my age group. Ernie then told me I could be a state champion for the next 4 years, or I could be a member of the Olympic team. The fire was lit, and Ernie began coaching me and started me doing the same workouts that all the throwers, the male throwers, were doing, including lifting weights. This put me much farther ahead of the other female athletes who were being treated like girls and thought not capable of doing the work or shouldn't be lifting the weights. At the end of my senior year, I competed in the junior and senior nationals, which Mike mentioned. And at that point in time, I decided that I was going to take a year off from school rather than going to the University of Maine so that I would be able to focus totally on my training. Unfortunately, in 76, I broke my wrist, so I was unable to make the Olympic team in 76. Besides ability, sacrifice, and hard work, making the Olympic team also requires money, which in most cases meant a sponsor. I'm extremely indebted to the Alphon family for their support and encouragement in helping me achieve my goal. At that time, the rules of how an athlete could be sponsored were very strict. Along with paying for my training expenses, the Alphons hired me to travel to schools throughout Maine and present my experiences of traveling and training. In these presentations, I tried to instill perseverance and motivate the students and emphasize that no matter what they chose to do, they should do their best and not be discouraged by people who doubted them. When I first started throwing, my father gave me a copy of Kipling's poem, If, and it hung on my wall the whole time until I moved out of the house. And my mother gave me a poster of a boy and a girl sitting on a bench. And the girl was looking at the boy and she asks, "Why are you an athlete and I'm a tomboy?" So lastly, I have my parents to thank, not only for their genetics, but for their unconditional love and support throughout my life. In June of 1972, Title IX had just been passed, and the girls' state track meet was called the Maine Olympic Sports Day. My wanting to throw the shot put and lift weights at the gym where I would be the only girl wasn't exactly the norm back then. And even though the sport I chose wasn't exactly what my parents' first choice would have been, they didn't try to put out the fire, but instead kept fanning the flames. For that, I am grateful and wish that they were here tonight to share this honor. I am humbled and honored to receive this award and proud to be one of the many Maine women who broke the barriers for female athletes and helped to make a positive change to the meaning of that, so it is no longer thought of as B-O-Y. Thank you very much again for this honor.
And congratulations and very well said. Our final inductee this evening is Robert Bob Wytock. Bob graduated in 1948 from Mexico High School and went on to the University of Maine, where he graduated in the class of 1952. Where he also attended and earned his master's degree in 1954. After graduation, he was drafted into the Army and served the United States for 2 years. We thank him for his service. After the Army, Bob taught math and coached football at Williams High School in Oakland. He then accepted and head football coaching position at Coney High School. In 1963, Bob became the assistant at Coney, a position until he held until he became the principal at Coney in 1976. Bob retired from the principalship in 1984. While in graduate school, Bob served as an assistant coach and started scouting football for the University of Maine at Orono, which he did for many years. He also started refereeing high school basketball in 1952 and became an accomplished and respected official, eventually moving on to become the Class A basketball tournament director in Augusta in 1974, where he oversaw the entire tournament until 2004. And then when the Class A tournament moved to Portland, he did yeoman's work running both the B, C, and D tournament in Augusta, as well as the tournament in Portland. The same year, Bob was inducted into the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame. Very pleased to welcome Bob into the 2020 Maine Principals Association Hall of Excellence. Unfortunately, no one from the Wytock family could join us tonight, but we certainly want to recognize Mr. Wytock as a 2020 inductee and recognize the work that he has done on behalf of all of the young people in running our tournaments. As an official, I can remember as a young coach and putting his arm around my shoulder and saying, "You're going to be quiet tonight." I said, "Yes, Mr. Wytock," and I would follow his advice and stay out of trouble. He was a true stalwart of education and a truly deserving member of this class. As we close tonight's program, I want to reiterate what all of the inductees here tonight exemplify. They are truly the best that we have in education, in high school sports and activities. It was a pleasure to hear from each honoree or their family. On behalf of the entire MPA membership, with schools from Kittery to Fort Kent, it is an honor to welcome each one of you into the MPA Hall of Excellence. I also want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. Please stay safe, and thank you all again for your service and leadership. Good night. Thank you.